What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Friday, November 5th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, we have a 9-game slate tonight, so let's take a look at the point guard position. So I like Stephen Curry, I like Ja Morant, DeJounte Murray, LaMelo Ball, De'Aaron Fox, but if I'm going to save some salary at the point guard position, take a look at Darius Garland from the Cleveland Cavaliers playing the Toronto Raptors, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing point guards, but Darius Garland has averaged 31.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 22% usage rate. He's projected at 31.9 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.9 times value. He's 6,500 DraftKings salary, and he's 600 less on FanDuel. So I like that FanDuel price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 212.5 points scored in this game, and Darius Garland has scored 33, 38, 30, and 36 fantasy points in his last 4 games versus the Raptors. He scored 41 fantasy points last game, playing 36 minutes. So I like Darius Garland here versus the Toronto Raptors. And another player in the mid-range for the point guard position that I like is Tyrese Halliburton from the Sacramento Kings playing the Charlotte Hornets, who have the second worst defense overall. They give up the 10th most fantasy points to opposing point guards. Tyrese Halliburton has averaged 31.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with an 18% usage rate. He's projected at 31.9 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.2 times value. He's 6,100 DraftKings salary, 900 more on FanDuel. So I like that DraftKings price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 227 points scored in this game. And Tyrese Halliburton has scored 48, 28, and 32 fantasy points in his last 3 games, playing 36, 31, and 33 minutes. So I would probably play Tyrese Halliburton on DraftKings and Darius Garland on FanDuel. So I like Tyrese Halliburton here versus the Charlotte Hornets. Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won. And we'll send you $25 PayPal. So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. I like Anthony Edwards from the Minnesota Timberwolves playing the LA Clippers, who have a good defense overall. They give up the 12th most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. And Anthony Edwards has averaged 41.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 36 minutes per game with a 30% usage rate. He's projected at 41.9 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.9 times value. He's 8,500 DraftKings salary, 500 less on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 215.5 points scored in this game. So I like Anthony Edwards here versus the LA Clippers. Now I also like CJ McCollum from the Portland Trailblazers playing the Indiana Pacers, who have the 11th worst defense overall. They give up the 6th most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. CJ McCollum has averaged 40 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 29% usage rate. He's projected at 40.8 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's 8,100 DraftKings salary, 100 less on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 223.5 points scored in this game. So I like CJ McCollum here versus the Indiana Pacers. Now, if you want to come down in salary a little bit, or a pretty good amount, take a look at Andrew Wiggins from the Golden State Warriors playing the New Orleans Pelicans, who have the 9th worst defense overall. They've been pretty good versus opposing shooting guards. Andrew Wiggins has averaged 27.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 23% usage rate. He's projected at 28.1 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.5 times value, but I think he can score 32 fantasy points or more in this one and get you close to 5 times value or more. He's 6,200 DraftKings salary, 100 less on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 219.5 points scored in this game. Now, the reason I like this pick is because Andrew Wiggins has scored 44, 38, 33, and 39 fantasy points in his last 4 games versus the Pelicans. So I like Andrew Wiggins here versus the New Orleans Pelicans. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. So I like Paul George, but he's a stud. We know he's great. And I also like Kevin Durant, but he's also a stud. Kind of goes without saying, those two guys. So if you want to come down in salary a little bit, this guy's still expensive, but he's just been playing out of his mind this season. Take a look at Miles Bridges from the Charlotte Hornets playing the Sacramento Kings, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. And although they've been pretty good against opposing small forwards, Miles Bridges has averaged 45.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 36 minutes per game with a 25% usage rate. He's projected at 45.4 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.5 times value. He's 8,200 DraftKings salary, 200 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 227 points scored in this game. So I like Miles Bridges here versus the Sacramento Kings. Okay, now here's a value play for you. I like Nicholas Batum from the LA Clippers playing the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have a good defense overall, but they're middle of the pack defending opposing small forwards. Nicholas Batum has averaged 24.6 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 27 minutes per game with a 14% usage rate. He's projected at 25.1 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.4 times value. He's 4,600 DraftKings salary, 900 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 215.5 points scored in this game. And Nicholas Batum has scored 34 and 31 fantasy points in his last 2 games versus the Timberwolves. And he scored 34 and 34 fantasy points in his last 2 games, playing 29 and 31 minutes. So I think he makes a pretty good value play, especially on DraftKings. So I like Nicholas Batum here versus the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on.
Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches,
just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, moving on to the power forward position. I like Julius Randle from the New York Knicks playing the Milwaukee Bucks, who have a middle of the pack defense overall. They've been pretty good versus opposing power forwards, but Julius Randle has averaged 47.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 37 minutes per game with a 27% usage rate. He's projected at 46.8 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.9 times value. He's 9,600 DraftKings salary, 300 less on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 217.5 points scored in this game. And Julius Randle, he scored 42 and 43 fantasy points his last two games, playing 37 and 36 minutes. He's a minute monster, and let's see what his points per minute is. 1.29 fantasy points per minute, and he's out there about 36 or 37 minutes per game. So I like Julius Randle here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. I also like Draymond Green from the Golden State Warriors playing the New Orleans Pelicans, who have the 9th worst defense overall. They're middle of the pack defending opposing power forwards. Draymond Green has averaged 34 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 14% usage rate. He's projected at 34.2 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.7 times value, but I think he can score 37 fantasy points or more, get you 5 times value or more. He's 7,300 DraftKings salary, 100 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 219.5 points scored in this game, and Draymond Green has scored 39 and 60 fantasy points in his last 2 games versus the Pelicans. So I like Draymond Green here versus the New Orleans Pelicans. Okay, moving on to the center position. So I like Giannis Antetokounmpo. I like Karl Anthony Towns. But if you want to save some salary at the center position, take a look at Jarrett Allen from the Cleveland Cavaliers playing the Toronto Raptors, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing centers, but Jarrett Allen has averaged 34.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 16% usage rate. He's projected at 34.6 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.2 times value. He's 6,600 DraftKings salary, 900 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 212.5 points scored in this game, and Jarrett Allen has scored 56 fantasy points in both of his last 2 games, playing 39 and 34 minutes. So I like Jarrett Allen here versus the Toronto Raptors. Now, another center that I like is Montrezl Harrell from the Washington Wizards playing the Memphis Grizzlies, who have the 2nd worst defense overall. They're middle of the pack defending opposing centers. Montrezl Harrell has averaged 37 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 20% usage rate. He's projected at 38.5 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.9 times value. He's 6,500 DraftKings salary, 1,200 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 225.5 points scored in this game. So I like Montrezl Harrell here versus the Memphis Grizzlies. And another player just caught out of the corner of my eye. This would be a DraftKings play for me. Take a look at Miles Turner from the Indiana Pacers playing the Portland Trailblazers, who have the 6th worst defense overall. They've been pretty good versus opposing centers, but Miles Turner has averaged 33.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 27 minutes per game with a 20% usage rate. He's projected at 35 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.8 times value. Because he's only $6,000 DraftKings salary, he is $1,000 more on FanDuel, so I like that DraftKings price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 223.5 points scored in this game, and he scored 34, 33, and 48 fantasy points in his last 3 games versus the Trailblazers, and he scored 57, 38, and 42 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Miles Turner here versus the Portland Trailblazers.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again and good luck.